seen your face before, my friend, but I don't know if you know who I am. Well, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes. So you couldn't wipe off that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies. And I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord. Well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord. And I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Well, I remember, don't worry. How could I ever forget? It's the first time, the last time we ever met. But I know the reason why you keep your silence up. No, you think me. The hurt doesn't show, but the pain still grows. Some stranger to you and me. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord. Well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord. I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord. Well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord. I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Well, I've been waiting for this moment. Who's the black pride addicted? That's a sex machine to all the chicks. You're damn right.
Welcome to another Sunday night, 8 p.m. live Radical Republicans live show with your host, the Black Mamba, Jerome Bell. Man, another day, man. These Democrats just don't quit, do they? These Democrats just don't quit. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But I hope you guys had a good week. Hope you guys are recovered from that debate performance, the lie debate performance from Kamala Harris. We're going to get that. We're going to get to that in the second hour of the show tonight. But what we have now, we got a special guest tonight. I'll get to him in a moment, but let's cover this real quick here. I'm actually going to read this real quick. Another attempted assassination of President Trump. So apparently this guy named Ryan Ruth was hiding in the bushes at the West Palm Beach golf course, Donald Trump's golf course. He was hiding in the bushes with a AK-47. That's kind of illegal, right? But he was a Democrat. But of course, the Democrats are going to try to blame this on Trump. He tried to assassinate himself again. Okay. But the shots that were actually fired, I'm hearing, was the shots of the Secret Service. They saw him. It was like two golf holes up, in the direction that President Trump was walking. And they were up ahead of him by one hole, and they saw him. So apparently they took him alive. So this is what I would like to do. This is what I would like to have done. He should be renditioned, and he should be waterboarded until he talks. He was hired by somebody. He didn't do it on his own. I think he may be a hired Fed, another person that they will come out and say, oh, yeah, we knew about this guy. It's always strange that the FBI, they know about all of these people, but they do nothing about it, right? Until something happens, okay? But hey, if that was another Fed, he must have been a solo guy, because he probably would have been dead if he wasn't, because there's always two shooters. You guys know that, right? There are always two shooters, and one is there to kill the other guy so he can't talk, right? All right, so but my guest tonight is author Joseph Sweeney. Okay, he wrote the book Dangerous Injustice: How Democrats Weaponize the DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. They've been persecuting Trump for 9 years now. I mean, even when he walked down the escalator, they started persecuting him. The bitches, the group, the females, the squad, as they call themselves, and that. I mean, even when they got elected, the first thing they said that they were gonna do to Trump. You guys know what they said. We're gonna impeach the MF, right? Okay, but Joseph, he's a veteran CIA lawyer, a provocative analysis of the cases against two presidents mishandling classified documents, and a call to action against an American justice system that is totally spinning out of control. We all know that. So with the politicization of the Justice Department is not new. On August 8th, 2022, you guys know this, when armed FBI agents raided the home of former President Donald Trump, alleging violations of the Presidential Records Act and the Espionage Act. The nation's top law enforcement organization reached new heights, and it's come to, be known that they planted, imagine that, they planted all the information and all of that stuff that they found, neatly and took pictures and stuff like that. So we're going to bring Mr. Joseph Sweeney on, and we're going to talk about this stuff. Joseph, welcome to the Radical Republicans live show in the Lions Den. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Hey, we're doing good. We're doing good, man. Did I cover that just a little bit? I know what your book is about, but a lot of people know what happened. They raided Donald Trump, but they never raided Joe Biden's garage. I don't think. And to my knowledge, the president of our former president, they have the right to declassify documents. They have a right to take documents with them when they leave office and declassify. But I don't know of a person or a senator or anyone other than a president that can do that. And these documents that were actually found in Joe Biden's possession was when he was a senator, but nothing happened. Help me out here, man.
Sure. Let me start by going over some of the facts of Biden's case that are not well known. They're
Okay.
buried in the Hur report, but you got to dig them out. And the press, of course, didn't highlight these facts at all. Biden had in his home 50 years worth of classified documents. And these weren't documents that were just in boxes in the garage. Some of them were, but other boxes had been unpacked. They were in filing folders and in filing cabinets that were all over Biden's house. The basement den, the upstairs den, outside the bedroom, in the foyer. Some of these files were in Biden's own handwriting. So there seems to be no doubt that Biden knew he had classified information in his home because he's likely the one who brought it into his own personal study and put it into a file that had his own handwriting on it. And what they found in their investigation was that Biden had actually been removing classified documents that were crossing his desk as vice president in the normal course of business. And he was taking those documents home. There's no other way that they ended up in a file cabinet. I mean, you could see if his staffers had packed boxes and, he never had the opportunity to go through them, how that kind of mistake could happen. Those things do happen. But not when the boxes get unpacked and end up in his own personal study. Now, I counted, going through the report, about 135 classified documents that were either in his house or an office he had in downtown DC, private office. But we don't know the total. The American public has never been told the total volume of the classified documents Biden had. And that also tells you something. And there is kind of a lack of transparency that is a commonality throughout all of Biden's case. Because right from the beginning, when they first found classified documents in Biden's possession, the White House didn't tell anyone, the National Archives didn't tell anyone, DOJ didn't tell anyone, the FBI didn't tell anyone. Nobody in the executive branch said a word for over 2 months until they kept finding more classified documents. Finally, it reached a point where they knew they could no longer contain the scandal. And only then, after AG Garland appointed a preliminary investigator, only then did they leak the story to the public in only little bits of drips and drabs, never the whole story. And so once they looked at it all, the cover-up started, of course. And the way Biden's investigation was handled is unlike any other investigation in history other than Hillary Clinton's investigation. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
The server in the bathroom.
Yes, which by the way, I can tell you, I worked on her case. I'm one of the few people who's actually read the fabled Clinton emails because I was chief of the litigation division in the CIA General Counsel's office. I participated in the classification review. I do a whole chapter just on Clinton and her case, and I reveal facts that have never been put on the public record before. And I'll get into some of them if you'd like.
Absolutely, because I want to know why she's not in prison.
Sure. I'll go through it.
That.
And here's a parallel with her case. What happened in Biden's case? No legal compulsion. There were no subpoenas. Biden's case had no grand jury. It was very kind of sketchy as to whether or not Clinton's case had one. Biden's lawyers were permitted to search Biden's home for classified information while the FBI had an open criminal case.
Oh, wow.
When have you ever heard of the FBI letting a potential defendant's lawyers rummage through a crime scene
That's
to look
right.
for evidence. But that's what they did. And they not only did they let Biden's lawyers, private lawyers, search both of his homes. This was Wilmington and Rehoboth Beach. At one point, when they finally found classified documents, they didn't even tell DOJ. They waited another day till they went and searched the next home because they wanted to make sure, the private lawyers wanted to make sure they got to search both homes before the FBI did. And we have no idea what they found because they weren't questioned. And the reason they weren't questioned is in the report that DOJ said, well, we couldn't question them because we couldn't get into attorney-client privileged information. Well, in Trump's case, they took Trump's private lawyers and put them before a grand jury and had them divulge attorney-client communications, and then they used them in the indictment. So that, the disparities, and I'll get into those in a minute, between Biden's case and Trump's case are just stark. But so that was basically Biden's case, right? They let Biden's attorneys do the searches. They let Biden refuse to answer questions. Publicly they were saying, the White House and Biden are cooperating completely with the investigation. That was a complete lie. Not only was it a unique investigation because they got to dictate the terms of their own investigation, but Biden refused to answer questions when he was questioned by the DOJ prosecutor. He also lied. At one point, the special counsel caught him lying, and all they said was, we found his statement to be not credible. Now, any other person who lies to a federal prosecutor, that is called a false official statement. That's a felony, 5 years in jail for each lie. And Biden told a lie. It's right in the report. So it's kind of hard to get your head around the extent to which typical investigative strategies were deviated from in Biden's case. It just wasn't a true investigation. They did uncover a lot of facts, and they did do a lot of work, but they did it all voluntarily, and they didn't use any legal compulsion. And so compare that to like Clinton's case. It was the same thing. Clinton's server in her house, the FBI never got that server. Clinton's own lawyers reviewed the server. It had what was reported to be around 60,000 emails on it, but we don't know for sure.
We don't know. Well, yeah, you're right, because they didn't. And then didn't they send that server overseas to CrowdStrike or something like that, or
some private entity that was also working for Clinton? After Clinton's lawyers reviewed the hard drives, they destroyed their own computers using wiping out the memory using a software called BleachBit. In what Director Comey described as a manner in which precluded complete forensic recovery. Now, they did end up taking about 30,000 emails and giving them back to the government because they were government records that were stolen in the first place. Right. And out of those, what was reported was that about 100 of those were classified. And like I said, I participated in the classification review of those emails. But what didn't make the public record, or only briefly, in Comey's public statement, and nobody really caught this, Comey said that about 2,000 emails were up classified, meaning they weren't classified when they were sent, but they were later found to be classified, which struck me as total BS because I'd never heard the term up classified before. And
I've heard, I've held a security clearance for over 27 years in the Navy, and I've never heard up classify. You down classify, yes, but you never up classify. I've never heard that ever.
Yeah, and so I suspected something suspicious was going on, and what I saw, because I was working with the State Department, and they were kind of at times I felt leaning on me to downgrade things, to have things be at a lower classification level. And I will bet that those 2,000 emails that were, up classified, that what was really happening was they were classified when they were sent, but the State Department just didn't want to say that. Now just look at all you got to do is look at the numbers. I mean, she was the Secretary of State, right? And one of the reasons you classify information is because it reveals the foreign relations of the United States. That's right in the executive order governing classified information, for crying out loud. And so If only 100 were classified out of 30,000, well, that just doesn't make sense. It's 0.3%. Like 1/3 of 1% are classified for the Secretary of State. You got to be kidding me.
That'd be like more like 95, 98%.
Yeah, certainly a lot higher. And then at that point, the 2,000 up classified, it kind of makes sense that at a minimum, those were classified also, which means she likely had thousands of classified documents on an unsecured server that she had set up in her own home. Now, once again, just like Biden's case, interviews were done voluntarily, no legal compulsion, no subpoenas. They bent over backwards to not prosecute Clinton and to clear her. One of the, there's two ways that federal government officials can get in trouble with classified information. One of them is to knowingly take it, right? Knowingly possess it, to take it home or any place where it's not supposed to be. And the other way is just to be grossly negligent in handling classified information, right? Just to have what is a voluntary and conscious disregard for a duty of care. There's no doubt that Clinton was grossly negligent.
Absolutely.
I don't think any reasonable person could say otherwise. And
she can't say she didn't know because she gets the same security briefings that we get for our classified security clearances.
I'm glad you said that, because under the executive order, Clinton was an original classifier, which is like less than 1% of the people in the executive branch are original classifiers. But under the executive order, if you're an original classifier, you are required to have training on I don't remember, it's yearly or biannual.
It's annual training. We have that annual training. And like in the military, we have to sign a page 13 that we had. Is I'm sure she probably had to sign something that she had to training. It's just protocol.
Yeah, and I also found, you can find this online, it's publicly available, Clinton's NDA that she signed when she got her security clearance. The State Department uses something called an SF-312. Her SF-312 is online, and it specifically says that you understand that you could be prosecuted for negligently handling classified information, let alone being grossly negligent. So it's right there in writing, and she signed it. Any other person in the executive branch, this, you would be prosecuted for what she did. Absolutely.
Oh, we'd be prosecuted. I'd probably still be spending time in Leavenworth right now.
Yes.
They would have threw that grossly negligent thing on me. I mean, even if we accidentally, take something home, or end up releasing something, let's say like a social security number, on a training document by mistake, right? That's, considered a breach of security. I mean, and we almost go to, admiral's mast or captain's mast or get court-martialed for little small stuff like that because it's so egregious. But for her to have a server, a known server, a unsecured server, which I heard had a backdoor channel, China had a backdoor channel to it, and she probably let them in, and nothing happened. And even Comey said that, basically she was guilty, but no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute her. Why is that? Because are they that afraid of the Clinton kill list, of the Clinton machine, of the Democrat machine, that nobody would prosecute her? And I noticed, I'm sad to say this, that Trump never really pushed for her to go to prison. And maybe that's because of Bob Barr. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll never know what the decision-making process was, but we know the decision, right? He never went after her, and he never went after any of the other people who were unlawfully targeting him and his campaign going all the way back to 2016. Right. All this is known now, right? These facts are all laid out in a DOJ IG report. And there's no doubt that the FBI and DOJ were unlawfully targeting the Trump campaign and going after Trump, which became what I call the Russia collusion hoax coup. Absolutely. While at the same time they were bending over backwards to clear Clinton. And Comey's press conference was very interesting because he comes out and says that Clinton and her aides were extremely careless. That's the term he used. Right. Extremely careless in handling classified information. Now, riddle me this. How can you be extremely careless but not grossly negligent? Those terms are synonymous.
They're synonymous, absolutely.
And so what Comey did, and I talk about this at length in my book, he attacked the law because there was no doubt that she was grossly negligent, and this is under the Espionage Act, where you can be prosecuted for being grossly negligent with classified information, or what that act calls national defense information. So what Comey said was, well, and this is what you were talking about earlier. Well, that law, that particular law on gross negligence, DOJ's never really liked it. And in fact, we only prosecuted one case in the last 100 years because we don't really like that case. We have questions about its constitutionality, so we only used it once, which is complete bunk, right? It doesn't matter how often a law gets used to determine whether or not it's a valid law. And I go into this in my book. Treason is the only criminal law that is embedded in the U.S. Constitution.
Absolutely.
The only one. Would anyone say that treason is not a valid criminal law just because it hasn't been used in 7 or 80 years? No. The frequency of the law has nothing to do with whether it's constitutional or not. And I also thought it was very interesting that in his testimony, he never mentioned that one case. What he said was, as far as I can tell, it's only been used once in the last 100 years. And so no reasonable prosecutor would ever bring a case like that. Well, I actually knew the case, that one case. It's a fascinating story. I go into this in great length in my book. It was a guy named J.J. Smith, who was a very senior FBI counterintelligence officer who was having a 20-year affair with a Chinese spy and giving her classified information. That was the one case. And
that's why he didn't mention it.
Yes, that's why he didn't mention it. And what's even more fascinating, that woman was a 20-year spy for China. She was paid by the FBI. She was a double agent. During those 20 years, the FBI paid her over $2 million, which she got to keep.
Wow.
She was an actual spy. Guess how much jail time she got?
Probably zero. Got to go back to China scot-free.
Zero, my friend. You are absolutely right. She didn't do 1 day in jail, and neither did J.J. Smith. He could have been prosecuted. Hell, they could have sought the death penalty for him, but instead, they only charged him with gross negligence, and they ended up dropping that charge, fine and probation, and he even got to keep his FBI pension. That's a true story.
No way.
It's all in my book. It's all true. The FBI did its own. The FBI DOJ did its own investigation of this.
Oh yeah, they investigated themselves. Imagine how that happens. How is this able to happen? These guilty parties that's in these organizations, they always get to investigate themselves. I mean, what happened to the grand juries? What's happening to the law, the rule of law in this country, since the Democrats and these people seem to always say no one's above the law, but I know they only be meaning Republicans, but no one is above the law. And it seems like none of these Democrats never get prosecuted. None of them ever, lose their jobs, really. And if they do lose their jobs, they get another position or they get to keep their pension. Why don't Republicans, and I sort of know the answer to this, but running for Congress, I know most of them are weak as hell, but why don't Republicans, the Senate or the Congress, subpoena these people? Why don't they do anything about any of this? I know President Trump fired Comey, right? But same with Christopher Wray. How complicit is Christopher Wray in all of this right now, following behind Comey, because he hasn't done anything either?
Yeah, there's no way he can't be complicit. And they're all political appointees. And because they're political appointees in this highly charged political atmosphere, they are beholden to their political master who holds their reins. And I'm glad you mentioned that, this doesn't, the Democrats don't get prosecuted, because there are 4 cases in history where senior government officials were investigated or prosecuted for mishandling classified information. Only 4. I worked on 3 of those 4 cases. Every one of them was a Democrat, and every one of them got off very leniently. One of them was the CIA director, what at the time was called the Director of Central Intelligence, John Deutsch. Another one was Clinton's National Security Advisor, Sandy Berger. Then there was David Petraeus.
He was stuffing stuff in his pants and
he was stealing top secret presidential records from the National Archives, putting them down his pants and in his socks, hiding them at a construction site in downtown DC. Then he brought them home and destroyed them. The only reason he got caught is because one of the archivists noticed that the file folders were coming back a little light. And so then they started to mark the documents. And it was only then. And he had access to quite a bit of information by the time they figured it out. They never ascertained the full scope of his thievery. They never searched his house. There were no subpoenas. There were no search warrants. He ended up getting a fine and a probation, a slap on the wrist. Oh, and by the way, he also lied to the FBI repeatedly. Normally, each lie, 5 years in jail, obstruction of justice, false official statement. He got his plea agreement was so lenient that DOJ only took his security clearance for 3 years. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. Wow. Why is this, man? I mean, because you just think
Politics.
back. I mean, it definitely politics. People are getting paid. People are compromised. We know that. We know the Epstein list still hadn't been released yet, or the Black Book with everybody's name in it. It seems like everybody in the government is compromised, and and I believe this is one reason why they never do anything, because, like Clinton said, if she ever goes down, she's gonna bring the entire DC with her. And I believe that's one reason why they never prosecuted her. I mean, even with the Benghazi thing, how much of those documents that were on her server was about Benghazi or Extortion 17, or about the bad drug deal or gun running deal, which I think it went wrong in Benghazi, that caused those deaths there.
I wish I could tell you, but the content of the classified documents is never put on the public record, so I can't speak to it, or else I would be prosecuted.
Yeah. You're not a Democrat, so yeah, they'll probably hold you.
That's right.
They'll probably really put you in prison.
Oh, that's right. Not only would I be prosecuted for that, what they would call a leak of classified information, they'd be, crawling up my butt with a microscope so they could get me for tax evasion and, the bootleg videotape that I have in my attic of, some movie someone gave me 20 years ago. Absolutely. They would throw the kitchen sink at me. So I mentioned, the first case was John Deutsch. He was the first government official to be prosecuted. And this is back in 1996. But I worked on that case. I was the line attorney working for the CIA with the DOJ prosecutor. Deutsch had over 300 documents, highly classified, which he had also, like Clinton, brought home and had on an unsecured server in his home. He got charged for one misdemeanor for having one classified document, one that was at the secret level, when he had plenty at the top secret level. Now, he signed a plea agreement for that one misdemeanor, fine and probation. That was it. He signed that thing at 8:00 on a Friday night. And then on Saturday morning, it was Clinton's last day in office. And Clinton pardoned Deutsch on his way out. So Deutsch never even had to pay the fine or serve the probation. Now, that pardon, it never got any media attention, because there was one other pardon that Clinton handed down that morning that got all the media attention. You may remember this. It was a man called Mark Rich. Mark Rich was a fugitive from justice. He escaped the United States while he was under indictment in the Southern District of New York for tax evasion, wire fraud, trading with the Iranians during the hostage crisis. What a guy. He was literally on the FBI top 10 most wanted list at one point. And Clinton pardoned that man.
Pardoned him.
Now that pardon,
I remember that. I totally remember that.
So here's the details that didn't hit the public record as much. That pardon did not go through the DOJ pardon office like every other pardon. It went around the pardon office, and it was approved by one person, a deputy attorney general, who was named Eric Holder.
Another person that should be in prison with Fast and Furious and gun running through Mexico with the cartels. And that's probably why he's not in prison. I mean, all these people are just so corrupt, man, and they're corrupt together.
And people, when Holder's name was first put up to be attorney general for Obama, people were saying, "Oh, he may not get confirmation.
Mhm.
You know, he may not get through the whole process because that Mark Rich pardon that he approved when he was Deputy Attorney General, that pardon was the reason he became
That's the
the
reason he
Attorney General.
got right.
He
Exactly.
established his bona fides with the Democratic Party, that he would do absolutely anything for the Democratic Party. And here's something else. Before that pardon was issued to Mark Rich's ex-wife, Denise, donated $1 million to the Democratic Party, $450,000 to the Clinton Library, and $100,000 to Hillary Clinton's Senate run. The swamp is deep, my friend. The swamp is deep and it is vast.
My gosh.
This is all true. It's all true. It's all laid out in my book.
I mean, it all makes sense, man. Hey, you guys got to go get. I have to go and get the book. Yeah,
You gotta. You're gonna love it.
I'm definitely going to get it, man. I'm ordering it. I'm buying now with one click while I'm on air, man. This is insane. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So,
wow. I mean, because it makes sense, you know, because we layman people, and how come these son of bitches never go to jail? How come they never get prosecuted? How come they can do all of this bullshit and they never go to prison? Well, here it is right here. They're all scratching each other's back. They're all compromised and they can't tell, or like I say, the whole house of cards coming down on the Democrat Party. I'm sure there's Republicans involved too, but my gosh, man, yeah, like I say, the swamp and the rabbit hole is very deep.
Now, those are two of the cases we talked about, and well, three. We talked about Clinton, and we talked about Deutsch, and we talked about Berger, but we didn't talk about David Petraeus. Now, Petraeus
betray us. We call him betray us in the military. David betray us.
He was the
that son of a bitch. I mean, go ahead. I'm gonna leave that alone.
He was for your viewers who might not know, he was director of the CIA under the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. And so what came out, and this is a crazy human interest story. Petraeus was having an affair. He was married, but he was having an affair with his biographer, a woman named Paula Broadwell. And Paula Broadwell got jealous of another woman who was spending too much time with Petraeus and started sending that woman threatening emails, you know, to stay away from Petraeus. And so that other woman told the FBI that she was getting threatening emails, and the FBI traced them back to Broadwell and raided her house. You know, the kind of stuff that happens in normal criminal cases. Right. And so they get into her house and they find classified documents that she'd gotten from Petraeus.
For the book.
And so they followed the trail back to Petraeus. And so they interview Petraeus, and what does he do?
Lie.
He lies.
Lie.
5 years, felony, right? Obstruction of justice, false official statement, at least for any normal person. Mm-hmm. So they ended up doing something that is a bit of an anomaly in all of these cases. The FBI actually raided Petraeus's house. This didn't get much publicity, but they got a warrant and they raided his house. Now, that was under the Obama administration, but and I go into this in my book. The deputy over at the FBI at this time was a real hard guy by the name of Sean Joyce. And he was a career guy who rose up through the system. And anyone who ever worked with him knew very well that Sean Joyce did not let politics enter into a criminal case. So I don't know this for sure, but it's almost certain that Sean Joyce is the reason that they actually raided Petraeus' home. And then they found like a bunch of notebooks of classified information in his home. So, but this was still, I mean, that's the FBI can do whatever they want. Charging decisions are up to the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice let Petraeus off, just like the others, with a slap on the wrist, you know, a fine and a probation, and that was it. He resigned from his job at the CIA, but then it was reported in the news that he was still serving as an advisor to President Obama, which means he probably kept his security clearance, if you can believe that. So those are the four cases, the only four precedents in U.S. history. And like I said, I worked on 3 of them, and I go into great detail about those in my book. And then, of course, there was Biden's case. You know, here's another Democrat who's kind of in charge of his own investigation. And so I guess it's no surprise that there was a very friendly investigation of Biden. Let me throw out for you one of the best nuggets from Biden's investigation. What the FBI found was Biden had been writing a book after he was vice president, after he left, the White House. This was early 2017, February 2017. And Biden was writing this book with the help of a ghostwriter. And so the ghostwriter was recording their conversations so that he would have them to play back as he was writing the book.
Right.
Well, in a conversation from February 2017, Biden can be heard saying, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs." Yes, that was in Biden's home.
Wow.
He was a private citizen. And this is where,
Right.
you'll remember the media hype over.
And he was never president, so he shouldn't have had any of this stuff anyway at that time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And, in my book, I go into the difference between a president and a vice president, and it's a big difference legally.
Right. Totally.
And in terms of their responsibilities and their autonomy. But that's not what DOJ did in the Biden case. You go through the report, and repeatedly they lumped together every turn. They lumped together the president and the vice president. I cut right through that. And so this was February 2017. Now this is 3 years before Biden even becomes president. And this is where DOJ said, well, yes, I mean, that's normally what a prosecutor would call a confession, right? That's a taped confession to a crime. I just found all the classified stuff downstairs. But what DOJ said was his memory was so poor that he probably forgot right after he found it that he even found it. 3 years before he even ran for president. Now, that's what got all the publicity. The fact that they basically said, the special prosecutor said, he's basically a senile old man who couldn't have remembered that he found the stuff right after he found it. But did Hur
do that on purpose?
I believe he did. Yes. I mean, what you can see, what you feel reading through the report repeatedly, Hur just bent over backwards to find reasons not to prosecute Biden. And some of them are just so patently ridiculous, like he could have, forgotten about it right after he found it, 3 years before he even ran for president. And he had a bunch of other ones, like with that taped confession, I just found all the classified stuff downstairs.
Right.
Hur downplayed that by saying it was just an 8-word utterance. A jury probably wouldn't give much weight to that. I couldn't believe it. Can you imagine if a prosecutor had a taped confession or a tape recording that had a murderer say, "I just killed him"?
Right. Oh yeah. That's confession.
I mean, that's only 4 words, right? And can you imagine a prosecutor saying, "Oh yeah, but it's so brief, no one would believe it"? It's unbelievable. Yeah. He also said that the tone was so casual. Biden couldn't have realized he was committing a crime, or else he would have never been so casual. I'm not making that up. That is in the report.
That's in the report.
It's in the report.
Oh wow, man, it's unbelievable. Well, actually, it is totally believable. But so is that one of the reasons why they took Biden down as well? Pretty much. I mean, because they all knew that he was deteriorating. I think brain wise, and but he had so much. He was too much of a liability going forward. I think. For him.
They were all fine with Biden. They were all riding with Biden until it became clear that he couldn't get reelected, right? They were fine with hiding his dementia and how crazy he was and that he had very little cognitive ability left. They were fine with hiding it until everyone else saw it. They protected him from the press.
Absolutely.
And I go into this in my book. I give specific examples over the years how they were protecting the throne and not letting anyone near him. It wasn't until the American public saw him in all his glory, and then the party realized that he could not get reelected. Only then did they dump him, and they dumped him hard, and they dumped him fast.
Is he mad? You think he's mad? I saw him put on the Trump hat. I saw him put on the Trump hat the other day. I don't know if you saw that video, but
I did see it, and it was very funny. Actually,
it was very funny.
It was. I would draw the analogy, and you might have seen this during your service time. I was in the infantry, And the last person you wanted to be working for was a colonel who was bucking to make general. Those people
Absolutely
were
right.
unbearable. But once
Right.
they made general, it was like working for your grandfather. They
That's
were all
right.
cool in the gang because they were made men in the mafia parlance by that. And then they were real easy. Well, it's kind of
Right.
like how Biden is now. His time is done. He's done his time. He knows there's no more for him. And now he's actually kind of relaxed. And in that, I did see that thing where he puts on the hat.
Yeah.
And he actually handled it pretty well. I mean, he had a good sense of humor and he handled it because his time is over and he knows it. I do think he's not happy about it, right?
Right.
They had to push him out. He did
Right.
not go willingly.
Oh no, not at all. And I know Jill's upset. I'm waiting on someone to come out, and they probably threatened him. Well, if you guys do anything, we actually going to actually put Hunter behind bars, because they keep threatening that. I do believe, and so because even with Harris, none of them like her. They don't like Harris. They didn't want Harris. The only reason I understand that they kept Harris is so that they didn't have to send that $100 million back to donors, because she would have had to start all over, and she would not have gotten $100 million from donors because nobody likes her.
I think that's right. And I think also Biden kind of primed that pump by coming out and supporting her before the Democratic Party. And it does not appear that Obama wanted her. Obama, I don't share his politics, but he's a smart man. I would never take that away from him. He's a smart man and he's a smart politician. I don't like his politics, but he's smart. And I think he viewed Harris as being dumb as a box of rocks and that she was not going to get elected. I don't think he wanted her. And but Biden, maybe that was Biden's kind of way of saying, screw you. You're going to throw me out the door.
Right.
Well, I'm going to raise her up, someone who you don't want. We don't know, but that does seem to have a ring of truth to it.
Yeah, I think the telltale sign was that, I mean, for the first time ever, since I've been following politics, and you look at these conventions, none of them were there that night she accepted the nomination.
That's right.
None of them. None of the top Democrat elites were there. Former presidents, Biden, Obama, nobody. They came and gave the little bullshit speeches, but nobody was there the night that she accepted the nomination. I think that's a huge sign.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So I've been talking about all these Democrats. Let me talk a little bit about Trump's case. So your viewers can get a glimpse at least of the stark disparities between how all those previous Democrats, and again, all the previous cases were Democrats where high-ranking government officials got caught with some classified, and they all had it knowingly. And then there's Trump's case. Now, Trump left the White House in a hurry. His staffers packed the boxes. There's no indication that he even knew what was in the boxes, but all he had to, and the president doesn't have to do anything special to declassify. He could have waved a magic wand and said, "Spectro declassimarius," and that would have been it. Done, right? But he might not have even known what was in there. And there's no evidence that he knew what was in there. They don't even say that he knew it in the indictment. The indictment is handled so deceitfully. The way they put it in the indictment was to say, Trump caused all the boxes to be packed, which is the exact opposite of what they did in Biden's case. In Biden's case, they said, well, staffers packed the boxes, and so we can't really hold Biden accountable. And, for the stuff that was in boxes, I don't disagree with that logic, because he probably didn't know what was in there. And staffers were packing things quickly, and you could see how mistakes could be made. And that's not criminal. That's just, we would consider that a security violation, which would be investigated, and people would maybe get a letter of reprimand, But in Trump's case, it was Trump caused all the boxes to be packed. And again, just a total 180-degree difference to how Biden's case was handled. Also, in Biden's case, and nobody caught this, but it's right in the report, they said that they couldn't even apply the Espionage Act to a vice president because it would raise constitutional concerns. And yet Trump has 32 counts under the Espionage Act. They had no problem charging him.
If anything, that should be reversed, because the president is protected, but the vice president is not protected. That should have been flipped, if anything.
You know, you are the only person I've talked to who understood that right off the bat. I think you have to have served, and you have to have, have had experience or decades of experience handling classified information to understand these little nuances. People don't. I have a whole chapter in my book explaining in layman's terms classified information, how it's handled, how it's created, and most people don't know that classified information is created under presidential executive order.
Right.
That's what governs it. All the creation, the storage, the handling, all those rules, which are very important, they all flow from the president. And everybody below the president, to include the vice president, is governed by those rules, but not the president himself, because he doesn't have to follow his own orders. Now, there is one place in the executive order where a vice president is specifically exempted from the order, and that is for access to classified information. And I think that makes sense because the vice president is the other high elected official, so he doesn't have to go through a background check, a polygraph, a financial check, all the stuff the rest of us would have to do.
Right.
He doesn't have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but that's the only area, access, that a vice president is exempted from. Storage, handling, all the security rules, they all still apply to a vice president.
Right.
And yet, they just stuck it to Trump and they let Biden off scot-free. And by the way, in the report I'll go back to Biden's case. In the report, they lay out years of gross negligence on Biden's behalf, where the people in the executive secretariat for the 8 years Biden was vice president, they followed him around with a dustpan and a broom, picking up all the classified that he was leaving everywhere. They gave him special briefings. There were special memos. This is all in the report. It didn't get any media, but there's about 2 pages worth of facts. It was, and then when he was leaving after 8 years, he wanted to take classified with him, note cards of his, and he wanted to take them with him. Why? For financial gain, because he wanted to write a book so he could make money in retirement. And so his aides started taking these highly classified note cards and putting them in binders so he could take them home. And a couple of the aides, and you will appreciate this, they were the military people. The military detailees raised a flag and they said, this is not right. He'll be a private citizen. He shouldn't be taking home highly classified information. One of the military detailees felt so strongly about this that she wrote an MFR, and it's in the report verbatim, saying that this was wrong. She wanted nothing to do with it, and that she did not want to be included in any aspect of the handling of these note cards for Biden to take them.
Right. Good for her.
Yeah, and it's all in the report.
Good for her.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Trump. So they charge him with 32 felonies.
Right.
And what they did was they broke it down. They cherry picked, some of the more sensitive documents. They charged him individually for each document.
Right.
I've worked on spy cases that went to trial, and I mean real spies. That's not how we charged them. We charged them with one count.
One kind of
one count under the Espionage Act. And then we picked whatever classified we wanted to use to support that count.
Right.
They took the exact opposite approach with a former president, charging him individually for each document just so they could stack the indictment up to 140 years in jail. It's absolutely ridiculous. The people who did this themselves should be the ones who are going to jail.
No, absolutely. Absolutely they should. And, and why do you think they did this? To me, they've always feared Trump, because even from the first day that he got elected, they came up with the Russia, then they impeached twice. And even as a private citizen, they still was going after Trump. And now they're trying to block him from becoming president again. Now today, the second assassination attempt. Why do they fear this man so bad that they are going to do anything to try to keep him from being elected president again? Because I think, here's my opinion, I feel that he let them off easy last time, and they know that the next 4 years, he doesn't have to worry about being president again. So he's going to go basically scorched earth on them. And like he says, anybody he's basically going to go after these people. He's
Yeah,
back, so
it's interesting in that Trump is not a creature of the swamp. He is
right.
not a career government person. He's an outsider. And he now had 4 years from being president to learn from the mistakes of not having cleared house a little harder.
Right.
Because
That's a
the
big mistake.
yeah,
Big mistake, dude. You
yeah.
should have put Hillary Clinton in jail. You should have cleaned the swamp. You should have drained the swamp. And if Barr wasn't going to prosecute him, you should have put a DOJ, guy in there that would have prosecuted him, an AG in there that was going to prosecute these cases. I mean, dude, that's where he failed to me. That's where President Trump failed in his first 4 years. He did not clean the swamp like he said that he was going to do.
So now they really fear him, right? Because he must have learned from that lesson, and so now he's going to come back with his waders on from day one, and they got to fear that.
And he has real patriots. He's going to have real patriots around him now. That's going to go after these. That's going to go hard at these people because they're pissed off too. A bunch of us are pissed off what's been going on ever since Biden's been in. So with all the illegal invasion, I'm not going to say immigration is not. It's an invasion of all these illegals. I mean, but everything that they've done to weaponize the DOJ. I mean, with the Jan 6, they're still going after people. Freaking Garland he's already said if like they already know that they're going to steal this election again. Another coup is going to come. The duly elected president of the United States will not be made president again because Garland has already come out and said, from today and in the future, and if you question this election, 2024 election, that they're going to come after you. He's already said that publicly.
Yeah, and so the other lesson Trump learned was not just to clean house, but also to ensure that all the high-level officials surrounding him in the executive branch are loyal, because he did not have that the first time. My God,
Absolutely
the
not.
FBI director Comey was purposefully leaking to the media memos that he had written based on his meetings with the president, which are official documents. And by the way, guess what those were? Classified.
Absolutely.
Comey never prosecuted, never even really investigated. The DOJ IG did an investigation of Comey's firing. It's online. You can find it. I would encourage everyone to read it. There's a lot of detail in it. And sure enough, he leaked them. He kept copies of them at his home. These were classified documents. He should have been prosecuted. And so Trump's learned you need people who are going to be loyal, not just to you, but to the policy goals that you want to achieve. And so that's why they fear him, right? And, he's the most powerful conservative out there at the moment. And so they don't want that agenda to succeed. They don't just want Trump to fail. They don't want his agenda to succeed. And so that's why all the attacks. And, I spent some time in my book, even though I focused on the recent cases of the mishandling of Biden and Trump and the precedents, I also took a look back, all the way back to the initial unlawful targeting of him in 2016,
right.
Because I'm very familiar with the mechanisms that were used to target him. The FBI was using intelligence collection authorities to target the Trump campaign, of which I'm very familiar with. And I go into all this in detail. And they just kept getting bolder, and this is another thing that bothered me. Back in 2016, when they were unlawfully targeting Trump, at least they had the decency to keep it on the down low in the shadows. They were using intelligence collection authorities. But nowadays, DOJ and the FBI are acting openly as an enforcement arm of the Democratic Party. And that is really scary. And and what's even scarier is that half the country's okay with it.
They're okay with it because half the country don't understand the Constitution, and they don't understand really what's the ramifications of all of this, especially the lawfare that's going on. I mean, this is insane. I've never seen this in my life ever.
I do a whole chapter just on the psychology behind this because it fascinated me. The members of the Democratic Party, and I'm surrounded by them. I live in Washington, D.C. D.C. voted 92% for Biden in 2020, right? All my neighbors are hardcore Democrats. And what I saw from 2016 on is that they just came to believe all the hateful rhetoric that their party was pouring into them on 24/7 nonstop. They just came to believe it all, and it affected them psychologically. And they reached a point where, as long as it gets Trump, they don't care because they're getting the devil, right?
Right, right.
Without thinking about the fact that, they're tearing down all the laws just to get to him, or recreating them, or the ends the ends are not justified by the means. But that's how they came to think, because they became so filled with hatred from all the violent, hateful rhetoric that they're okay with it.
Yeah, because of course he's a conservative and Republican or whatever, because they just tend to come after us. Seems like, but wow, man, hey man, this this is fascinating. This book is going to be fascinating, and I definitely suggest everyone go out and get this book, Dangerous Injustice: How Democrats Weaponize the DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. Now, what is this about? Even though they're doing this to protect Biden, why is the DOJ and the FBI going after moms and dads protecting their kids at school boards? What is this all about? Is this just a psyop so American people won't stand up for their rights, like J6 is? J6 was a total Fed setup. It was orchestrated, and it was a psyop to keep people from actually going with and protecting their First Amendment rights.
Again, it's all just pushing back on conservatives in every way possible. And with the teachers, it was, they're pandering to the teachers unions, right? Because they don't want parents showing up. They don't want parents showing up at the local hearings complaining about the fact that their second grader is getting taught sex education.
Right.
So A.G. Garland decided to turn those parents into domestic terrorists.
Man, unbelievable. But hey, this is the country that we live in right now, so we have to protect this. So what do you foresee going forward? Let's say with the election, is Trump going to get elected? What's going to happen before, if anything, before the election? Or what's going to happen in November?
Well, it's hard to say, right? Because there are always those October surprises that are out there, and anything can happen. I mean, look, we just had a second assassination attempt today, and if the odds hold, there may well be a third. And so anything can happen between now and then. If people were voting today, I think Trump wins, but that could be just wishful thinking on my part. I just find it hard to believe. Let me give you an example. When Obama ran for president, almost every house in my neighborhood had an Obama sign, right? And there were Obama stickers everywhere. Now with Hillary, when Hillary ran, there were not even half as many, maybe 20% to 30% as many. Right now, there's not a single Harris sign on any home in my neighborhood.
That's because no one likes her. no one really no one likes her. It's unbelievable how but they continue to push this. Are they just taking the L on this one? Do you think? They know that she's not electable. They know that people don't like her, but they had to keep the money, and they said, well, you know what? I don't think she's going to be elected. They're going to push a little bit, but I don't think So we may just have to take the L on this one.
At the highest levels of the Democratic Party, I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. So amazing. Hey man, well, thank you. I'm not gonna hold you. I know we said about an hour. So Joseph Sweeney, y'all, thank you for coming to the Lions Den, man. It's fascinating. We're gonna have to have you back after the election.
Please do. I had a great time talking to you, and I'd love to come back.
All right, thanks, Joseph. We appreciate you, man. We'll see you next time.
All right, have a good night.
Okay, thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that's Joseph Sweeney there with Dangerous Injustice: How Democrats Weaponize the DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. Go get the book. Go get the book. It's on Kindle for $9.99. The hardcover is about $27.95 on Amazon. But go get it. Go get it. I'm going to pop. I already popped the one click, so it's on the way. All right. So before I continue, guys, we're going to talk about Kamala Harris. We're going to get in. But, I got a couple of things to cover first. First of all, I'm ecstatic about this, that my show is going out now on the America Happens Network. Thank you to Vim Miller for including me in the family, for putting the Radical Republicans live show up on the network, and we can actually be seen on Rumble at America Happens Network, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku. I believe it's going out, so you guys can check it out, check them all out, and see if the Radical Republican show is there. I'm monitoring a few of them. I can see a couple of them. So, Vin, thank you for making me part of the HAN family. We appreciate that. And also, I'm on pickaxe.com with FFN, Freedom First Network, with Jeff Dornick. That just started. So go to pickaxe.com, sign up. It's a social media platform of freedom. So thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm excited to see how that turns out. But I also have to, hit my sponsors. So are you truly prepared for the unexpected in a world filled with uncertainties? Your family's health and security is paramount. Don't take chances when it comes to your health. Introducing the Wellness Company's Medical Emergency Kit, the ultimate defense against medical crises. Inside, you'll find critical medications like ivermectin, emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and more, all accompanied by an easy-to-follow guidebook so you can use it at any time. The Wellness Company's team of distinguished medical professionals, including Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Risch, Dr. Drew Pinsky, and more truth-seeking heroes, have crafted a gold standard solution for your peace of mind. So don't let uncertainty paralyze you. Visit twc.health/FFN and use promo code MAMBA, MAMBA, for an exclusive 10% discount. Secure your family's health today with the Wellness Company. And also, one of my other sponsors, Freedom First Beef. You go to freedomfirstbeef.com. Preppers All Naturals is who they are. Freeze-dried, high-quality, non-GMO beef for prepping, committed to no antibiotics, growth hormones, or mRNA vaccines, will last more than 25 years. And you can get a 25% discount for using the promo code MAMBA, MAMBA, freedomfirstbeef.com. And I'm going to apologize over to my Getter family. I cannot get on Getter. I can see you guys over there on Getter, but for some reason, I had to log out and I cannot comment to you guys. But I see you guys. So so I appreciate you guys over there on the chat, over there at Getter on the show. But it's really weird. It's not letting me on, man. I think because I got this new phone, but so I can see you, but I can't comment. And so I see you. So thank y'all over there on Getter. You guys just keep it going, keep it chatting up. Go ahead and share that out, this show. Okay, so now, I got a lot of clips, man. I hope we can get through this. I think we're good. But I'm gonna jam through this stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Carolyn. Definitely about your cousin there. But Kamala. Okay, I just sort of came on for a minute. During the debate, I was in the middle of something. I rushed home. I jumped up here. But Kamala just lied. Kamala just totally lied. We're gonna jump into a bunch of these clips, man. I got so many clips. I'm gonna have to download some and load some up. But we're gonna talk about this Kamala debate lie so easily and fact checked. She was so easily. I mean, everything she said is so easily fact checked. And I want you guys to notice this too. Now, their new bullshit is that they're blaming the border on Trump. They're blaming this border invasion on Trump, saying he stopped what they wanted to do by telling whoever not to sign the bill, and just the whining bullshit, right? All right, so, but this first from the moderator, I'm gonna let you guys listen to this. I know this was a Freudian slip, but he actually believes this, or else he wouldn't have said it, right? Now, this is the debate, and I don't know if any of you guys caught this, right? I didn't see anything in the chats. I didn't see anything on X. I didn't see anything on any of the conversations about what the moderator said at the very beginning of the debate. The very beginning of the debate. Here, let's take a listen.
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and you're...
Okay, so let's stop right there. Did you guys catch that? Right? Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch it? I'm going to play it one more time, then I'm going to let it play. Did you guys catch what he said? Right? Here, I'm going to play it again one more time. Here.
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and
you and President Trump was elected 4 years ago. You and President Trump was elected 4 years ago. That's what he said. Yes, we do know President Trump was elected. She was not elected, but we do know President Trump was elected. And I know he meant Biden, but it was a Freudian slip because he knows and everyone knows that President Trump was elected in 2020 and they stole the damn election. Okay? They stole it. She was never elected. She was never elected. Bottom line, she was never elected. Okay, so that's number one out of the gate. Straight out of the moderator's mouth. President Trump was elected. Okay, let's complete this because we're going to go through. We're going to debunk her. We're going to let her talk. We're going to debunk all of this stuff once and for all. Okay, we're going to curtail her lies. We're going to just blast her, put her ass on blast about every lie that she told during the debate. I have every clip and some other things. Okay, I'm going to let this guy finish.
Opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Just blatant lies. And by the way, she never answered the damn question. She never answered the question because what happened to Build Back Better? What happened to Build Back Better, right? That failed. So she never asked, are people better off today than they were 4 years ago in the economy? And the question of that is hell no. Hell no, she couldn't answer that. She couldn't answer that, not one bit, right? And so she's going to give this story, and then I'm going to play something a little later because she did give an 11-minute interview, right? She gave an 11-minute interview that, hey, this got no national attention. Zero national attention. I'm going to play this first. I'm going to come back to this because I want to hit this abortion and all that. But I want to play that first. I'm going to play her interview that she did in Philadelphia just the other day. It was an 11-minute interview, softball interview. Look at her. I mean, this is the only interview that she's done by herself, right? She doesn't have a little support, hand holder, walls with her. Okay. And you can look at her. She's unconfident. She's not confident at all. So we're going to play this interview. And before we get back to this. All right. So it's Brian Taft's is his name. It's a full interview. Full interview. Trump does hour and a half long interviews or whatever it takes. This is in 11 minutes. 11 minutes. So she's all word salad. So we're gonna go ahead and play this because this is unbelievable. I'm gonna roll this back because I was listening to it earlier.
All good? Okay. Okay, wonderful. Good. Awesome. Madam Vice President, pleasure to meet you. Thanks for your time today. Our audience appreciates your time.
Of course.
As you know, we're sitting here in a state and arguably in front of an audience that 54 days from now could decide the outcome of this presidential election. Yeah. You hear it more than I do. People want to know more about you and about your specific plans. At the debate the other night, you talked about creating an opportunity economy. Mm-hmm. I wonder if we could drill down on that a little bit. When we talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people, what are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me.
Did you guys hear this before? Before she even gets started, right? Where have you heard that before? She's going to give the same answer that she gave at the debate. She's not going to answer the freaking question at all because she has no answer. She has no answer to it.
She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first.
And this bullshit probably took up 3 minutes of the interview, right? I haven't watched it on the clock yet, but this is the same exact answer. This is her recall memory from the data dump that she did, at the debate, and she still cannot answer the question.
House when I was a teenager.
Collaboration is key for
Uh-oh.
team success.
No,
With
they
ClickUp,
didn't,
you can
man. They
easily
just
manage
went
your
to the
team's
skip.
tasks and timelines.
All right, I'm gonna skip it. Here you go.
Of hardworking people, construction workers,
You know it's
and
live.
nurses and teachers, and I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience. If
She didn't really grow up around hardworking people, by the way, guys. Don't let her bullshit you. Okay. I mean, and, I'm so tired of this, and people falling for this, especially people that look like me. She grew up very wealthy. She grew up she grew up in Montreal, Quebec, in a very well-to-do neighborhood. She went to a private school. She went to called FACE. Okay. She went to a private school there to try to learn French. She couldn't learn French because she was too dumb to learn French. So they put her in I think it was Westmount. Okay, they put her in Westmount Public School, which was a more of an English speaking school in Quebec because she could not hack it at FACE, which was trying to learn French. So they had to put her in a public speaking school. So don't let her bullshit you. That it was hard work. And her mother was a professor. Her mother was a professor at the university there. Matter of fact, and she worked, I think, at the Jewish hospital or something like that with cancer research, and she taught at the university. So don't let her bullshit you, about that she was, part of this hardworking family of construction. No, you didn't. Her vacations were to India. Her vacations were to India. That's where her vacations were, to go see her family. Okay.
but a lot of people will relate to this. I grew up in a neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn. And
So that there goes to tell you she grew up in a good neighborhood, right? Because the people actually cared about their lawns. They cared about their lawns, right? She's not answering the question, first of all, but they actually cared about their lawns. And you guys know, if you live in a neighborhood, probably someone with a homeowners association or something, beautiful lawns and neighborhoods, those are really well-to-do people, right? Because their lawns are beautiful for a reason, because they can afford it, right? They can afford the fertilizer. They probably had somebody come do it. They could probably pay somebody to come mow it, because I'm sure they didn't mow it. She didn't mow it. Her sister didn't mow it. Her mama didn't mow it. So they probably had someone to come and actually take care of their grass too in Montreal.
And I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity, and that we as Americans have a beautiful character. We have ambitions and aspirations and dreams, but not everyone necessarily has access to the resources that can help them fuel those dreams and ambitions. So when I talk about building an opportunity economy, it is very much with the mind of investing in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people, and creating opportunity for people, for example, to start a small business. My mother, worked long hours, and our neighbor helped raise us. We used to call her, I still call her, our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small business owners. I learned who they are from my childhood, and she was a community leader. She hired locally. She mentored.
And so let me tell you something. Small business owners, when she grew up, right? Because she grew up in the 60s, 70s, right? Small business owners were actually pretty well off then, because they could actually afford to open a business. Okay. Back then, small business owners now can't afford to operate small businesses because they get taxed to hell. They can't operator can't compete with the big box stores. So back then, small business owners were actually some of the wealthiest people, right, in the community. The small business owners had all the money because they owned the businesses. So she don't even realize really what she's saying, right? She grew up, and she's trying to make it seem like that she grew up, not wealthy or not part of the upper middle class, right? Because she can't really relate. But the small business owners back then had most of the money.
Our small businesses are so much a part of the fabric of our communities, not to mention, really, I think, the backbone of America's economy. So, my opportunity economy plan includes giving startups a $50,000 tax deduction to start their small business. It used to be $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. But investing in people's innovative ideas and giving them the ability to go for it. Opportunity economy means, look, we don't have enough housing in America. We have a housing supply shortage. And what that
We have a housing supply shortage because there's too many people in here that's not supposed to be here. Over 20 million illegals, 20 million illegal aliens that's in this country. Probably more than that. It's probably close to 40 million. That's not supposed to be in here. Oh, by the way, you let them in because you brought Haitians in and you gave them temporary protective status. We'll get into that later. But this is why there's housing shortages, because there are people in this country that are not supposed to be here. And she was the border czar, and she helped really facilitate the madness that's happening in this country.
means, in particular for so many younger Americans, the American dream is elusive. It's just actually not attainable. So part of my plan is to work with the private sector and how.
But they're giving it to illegals. Out in California, they're giving $150,000 zero free interest loans out to illegals. They're not giving this shit to Americans. I don't see Americans walking around with EBT cards with $13,000, $15,000 on it and $5,000 cash. I don't see Americans walking around like that. Illegals are doing it. Venezuelans are doing it. All these people that they bring into this country are doing it. So what she's talking about, make no mistake, it's not for American citizens. It's not.
Housing developers to give them a tax credit, to be able to partner with us as the government to build.
Why would you give housing developers are billionaires, right? Didn't she say that she wanted to, like stop the billionaires? Weren't they against billionaires? The last housing developers that I know are very, very rich and billionaires. Why you want to give them tax credits to build more houses, to make them richer, right? Her bullshit, her rhetoric makes absolutely zero sense because she's full of words, sounding she's full of shit. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And people want this to represent them as the leader of the free world against Putin and Z and anyway.
And my goal is 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. In addition, to help people who just want to get their foot in the door, literally. And so giving first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance.
$25,000 down payment assistance won't buy you shit, by the way, right? Pretty much $25,000 down payment, and all that's going to do is get you in debt. All that's going to do, you're probably going to end up losing the house because there's nothing else to go with that, right? You still have to be able to afford the mortgage. You still have to be able to afford everything else that goes with owning a home. That's why they look at your credit. That's why they look at your income with tax and your income to debt ratio, right? Because there's a lot more that goes into a home than the mortgage. Most everything else is probably more expensive than the mortgage, especially if you have the repairs, if you have maintenance, if you don't buy a new home that's under warranty, but as soon as that warranty wear out, right? Or if you buy an existing home, when something wears out, you're talking about $3,000, $5,000 for an air conditioning unit, for an HVAC system, right? Or plumbing. You're talking about $2,300 bill for plumbing if you don't have, home warranty or something like that. So, this $25,000 is totally really bullshit too. And it's going to be a tax credit. She talked about talking about $25,000 cash. They're not going to give $25,000 cash. They're going to be a tax credit. And then if they do give you $25,000 in cash, they're going to tax you on it the next year. You're going to have to pay taxes on it, right? And then that's going to be income. That's going to raise your tax rate. See, a lot of people don't understand what they're doing with these tax credits and stuff, right? Because they give them to you, but then they take them away the next year because they add it to your income on your next tax return.
To be able to just get in the door, and then they will do the work that they need to do to save and to pay that mortgage and to build wealth for themselves and their family. These are some examples of what I mean when I talk about an opportunity economy, and a lot of it has to do with just the community I was raised in and the people that I admired, who work hard, and deserve to have, their dreams fulfilled because they're prepared to work for it.
Who isn't looking for extra ways to save some money?
As you know, this is
right?
live, man. They just
I'm
keep
always
going.
looking for new
We're gonna
ways to
skip that.
You
Oh,
talked
go ahead.
at the debate and at previous.
I didn't edit this. You know it's live because I didn't edit this.
On the
Just
past. And in
straight
fact, here
for you.
today in Johnstown, you're talking about a new way forward.
Yeah.
I think some people have a question, given maybe your current role as Vice President of the United States, how different you are from Joe Biden. And so I wonder if there are one or two spots, policy areas or approaches where you would say, I'm a different person.
Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden. And, I offer a new generation of leadership. And so, for example, thinking about developing and creating an opportunity economy where it's about investing in areas that really need a lot of work and maybe focusing on, again, the aspirations and the dreams, but also just recognizing that at this moment in time, some of the stuff we could take for granted years ago, we can't take for granted anymore. For example, another plan that I have that is a new approach is to expand the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families for the first year of their child's life, because that is obviously a very critical stage of development of a child. And a lot of young parents need the help to buy a car seat or a crib or clothes for their kids. And so,
okay, so how's a tax credit going to do that? Because you don't use a tax credit until the end of the year when you're filing for taxes in April, actually in April, right? So how is that going to help a newly, a new family afford a crib or a car seat? They got to take the money out of their pocket. So what the hell is the tax credit going to do? Give it back to them in April? They already spent that, and they're probably going to, be taxed on that. So what the hell is a $6,000 tax credit going to do? Because you're not going to get all that back in taxes. It's going to be is percentage of that, right? So I mean, all this stuff that she's giving, and it's talking about give. Never how we're going to pay for it. How are we going to pay for it? How am I going to do this? And she never answers any question. Again, she's not answering the question. So,
approach is about new ideas, new policies that are directed at the current moment. And also, to be very honest with you, my focus is very much in what we need to do over the next 10, 20 years to catch up to the 21st century around, again, capacity, but also challenges.
that's what he's thinking, right? Someone in the chat, the thing was Katalia asks, I wonder what this interview is thinking. The interviewer is thinking, right? This is what he's thinking. Look at his face. He's like, oh my God, what a load of bullshit. Look at his face. That's what he's thinking, Katalia. That face right there tells you everything you need to know about what this guy is thinking. He's trying to keep his job. He's not pressing. It's all softball stuff. But that's what he's thinking. That face right there. Look at that face. Look.
Crime and public safety are two major issues right at the forefront of voters' minds in Philadelphia as well, where crime is a significant issue. When we talk about crime, the conversation turns to gun safety as well. And I think you actually probably caught a lot of people off guard, maybe a bit by surprise in the debate the other night when you mentioned that you are a gun owner. I know you said it in 2019 as well. I want to talk about your values on this issue. When it comes to gun ownership, where do you draw the line in America on gun ownership and gun use?
Well, like you said, Brian, I am a gun owner.
How many people believe that bullshit? I don't believe she. Now, when she said this, right? My next follow-up question would have been, when she said, I am a gun owner, my next follow-up question would have been, well, what type of gun do you own? What type of gun do you own? And see what that answer would have been. Man, right? Isn't that like the next question? Oh, I'm a gun owner too. What type of gun do you own? I don't think she had an answer for that. I don't think she would have an answer for that. Oh my God. She would have panicked. She probably would have pissed on herself, right? If he came with that question, what type of gun do you own? But anyway, I mean, she owns no guns. She doesn't have a gun. She knows the first, she doesn't have to. She has armed security. She doesn't need a gun. She has 24-hour armed security. What do you need a gun for?
And Tim Walz My running mate is also a gun owner. We're not taking anybody's guns away. I support the Second Amendment and I support reasonable gun safety laws.
You cannot support the Second Amendment and any gun control. None. It makes no sense. They do not go together. You cannot support shall not be infringed, but then support laws that support gun control. They are not synonymous. They do not go together. It's bullshit. You cannot. So she does not support the Second Amendment at all. Sorry.
Part of my approach to this is I was a career prosecutor for most of my career.
Here we
I
go.
have personally prosecuted homicide cases.
Mm-hmm.
I have personally looked at autopsies.
Mm-hmm.
I have personally seen what assault weapons do to the human body.
And for all you people out there that that believe in this assault weapon stuff, right? Assault weapons are already illegal. Assault weapon is automatic weapons. They always want to try to target rifles or AR-15s is their biggest thing, right? That is not an assault weapon. That is a semi-automatic weapon. So when you talk about assault weapons, and it may be what she says she's seen autopsies of what assault weapons. Yeah, they are illegal. Machine guns are illegal. AK-47 is it's illegal in the United States, but they had one. Some guy had one trying to shoot President Trump again today. Automatic weapons are already illegal in the United States. But Sue, who seems to have all of these illegal weapons? The criminals. So obviously they don't give a shit about your gun laws. Obviously they don't care that they're not supposed to have them because they have them, right? They have them. All the criminals do, and criminals don't care. The criminals don't care about your gun laws. They don't care because they're criminals. Duh. Unbelievable, man. This stuff is just pisses me off. But I'm gonna have to get through this, so I have a lot of clips.
And so I feel very strongly that it is consistent with the Second Amendment and your right to own a gun to also say we need an assault weapons ban. They're literally tools of war.
Tools of war are not allowed in the United States of America. You cannot do both. You cannot have both. You cannot even believe in both. So, okay, I'm not going to comment anymore. I'm just going to let this play out so we can get to other clips of her lies on the debate.
They were literally designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. I say we need universal background checks. The majority of NRA members support that. Why? Because it's just reasonable. You just might want to know before someone can buy.
And for all you dumbasses out there that maybe not have ever bought a gun like her, because if she owned a gun, she would know that she got a background check when she bought the gun. California has a 3-day limit. You can go and buy a gun, but you have to wait 3 days before your fucking background check comes back. And that was back when I bought my first gun out in California in the 80s, 1985. You got to wait 3 days to even go and pick up your gun because they do a background check. So any fucking idiot that says that they own a gun, as she was probably, and she lives in California, they do background checks right there. They do a lot of them do state police background checks when you're in the store. And if they can't get the information they need, they tell you, come back, we can't get the information. Or if they can't even get into the system, you don't get that gun until they receive that state police background check back from the state police that you're not a fucking criminal. So they do background checks. So when people talk about, background, no, this is what she wants is gun registration. This is what she wants. She wants universal gun registration so ATF and everybody can know who has the gun so they can come and confiscate it, because she does, and I'm going to play a clip later, she does believe in what they call mandatory buyback programs. I know I said I wasn't going to comment anymore, but this type of stuff pisses me off because people buy into this bullshit, right? And so mandatory buyback programs, mandatory means that they can come and take your shit, that you have to go and turn it in. That's gun confiscation. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it.
Lethal weapon, if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You just might want to know.
2 final questions, if I might.
Sure.
On the appeal of the man you were running against, as you drove here today, you likely saw a lot of Trump signs. He has an historic appeal in this country. And as you are someone running against him and trying to understand that, I wonder how you distill it. What do you understand his appeal to be? And how do you speak to his voters, or maybe people who just share his values but are open to something else?
I, based on experience and a lived experience, no. In my heart, I know, in my soul, I know that the vast majority of us as Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. And I also believe that I am accurate in knowing that most Americans want a leader who brings us together as Americans, and not someone who professes to be a leader who is trying to have us point our fingers at each other. I think people are exhausted with that approach, to be honest with you. I think people want a leader who has common sense and tries to find common ground. I'm supported by over 200 Republicans who worked for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney. I'm supported by the former Vice President Dick Cheney, former Congress member Liz Cheney.
She's supported by neocons and war criminals that do not want Donald Trump to be in office because he is going to take away their money again, all of the money that they're making on these defense contracts in Ukraine and everywhere else that they can, right? That's who support her. No America First, no MAGA supports her. Sorry about that, at all.
And I think people are more willing now, in light of the hate and division that we see coming out of Donald Trump, to say, hey, let's put country first. And I think that just makes us stronger and more healthy as a country, to say, look, we can all debate our differences around, various policies, but let's stop with the division. Like, enough of that. Let's bring everybody together.
And finally, as you introduce yourself to America in a new way, they've heard much of your story at the Democratic National Convention and in that debate earlier this week.
And we heard much of it tonight, too.
That you wish Americans knew about who Kamala Harris is, that you don't think they know yet, what would that be?
I don't know. I mean, probably it's not very different from anybody watching right now. I love my family. One of my favorite things that I lately have not been able to do is Sunday family dinner. I love to cook.
Collard greens. She loved to cook collard greens, y'all. Ain't that what she said? But we saw that dish she was cooking. It didn't look very good.
I have incredible friends. My best friend from kindergarten is still my best friend. I think that, I have a career that really, and I said it the other day, as a career prosecutor, I never asked a victim of crime, were they a Republican or a Democrat. The only thing I ever asked them is, are you okay?
And she also prosecuted an innocent man for murder, and she held back evidence against a black man that she was prosecuting for rape or murder, and he actually ended up getting out because of her negligence and not turn over evidence to the defense team. So that's what she did as a prosecutor over and over and over again to black men and women.
And I think that's the approach that most Americans want, regardless of who they voted for in the last election, in terms of turning the page and charting the way forward.
I imagine you're looking forward to cooking Sunday dinner again.
I am looking for it. Yeah.
Okay, I can't take no more of that bullshit. All right, so we're gonna get onto some clips, man. I honestly just can't take that. All right, so on abortion, here we go, guys. We're gonna rifle through these clips, from the debate and some different clips that we have here, just to show how much she liked during the debate.
If Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms In particular, the freedom to make decisions about one's own body should not be made by the government.
Vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President.
Third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the... We talk about third trimester.
So it's obvious that the moderator lied. And I knew that because I lived in Virginia. I knew what was going on in Virginia. Yeah, we had a nine month up to birth. They can kill the baby. So the moderator lied right there in Virginia, and there's other states like that too. And this was a bill that they were trying to pass. So,
Delegate Tran.
Yes, sir.
How late in a pregnancy would your bill apply if a physician was simply willing to certify that the continuation of the pregnancy would impair the mental health of the woman? How late are we talking about?
Well, so the way the suggestion that we've made in the bill is to say it's in the third trimester and at the, with the certification of the physician. So
how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
It's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester?
Yep. I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Murder up to birth. That's murder. That's murder. She said President Trump lied. That's murder. It was in a bill they were trying to pass. That's murder. So when they try to say President Trump is lying, always fact check these son of bitches. Here's something else Kamala did, and Waltz.
Against a motion to give protections to babies born alive after failed abortions. Not only that, but according to the National Review, Tim Walz signed legislation that guaranteed an unqualified right to abortion up until the moment of birth and even gutted protections for children born alive after abortion.
Signed the bill. Signed the bill. So in Minnesota, her running mate signed a bill in Minnesota that guarantees that they could kill a baby up to birth. They could execute a baby. Donald Trump was right. He got that from me. You guys know he got that from me, right? Executing, because I always say that abortion is execution, right? And, because I tell black people we're, executing our own. Exterminating is another word that I use. Exterminating, it's extermination. So we've debunked that. There you go. And she's not going to answer. She didn't want to answer that, but she had to. I'm glad he pushed her on that. Okay, so now let's continue to debunk Charlottesville.
Remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
Bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
And I'm going to play it again for all you son of a bitches that said that he didn't say that, right? So this is exactly what he said. Exactly. You guys heard it. You guys heard exactly what he said. The Democrats always trying to, they never play the real clips. They never play the videos. They just tell you because they know most people won't take the time to go look it up. Most people are going to just take their word for it. And they're going to say, yeah, Trump's a white supremacist, blah, 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 and all this. And he said that, so this is what he really said. So go home and play this for your friend. Okay, why don't you play that for your friends?
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
They should be condemned totally. They should be condemned totally. He said it. He said it, right? Okay, so another lie. Another lie. We're on rapid fire mode now, man, because I'm running out of time and we got so much shit to bring up.
Clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
And she keeps trying to say, Donald Trump, the candidate, not the former president, Donald Trump, the candidate. They try to downgrade him, right? So they told her this, call him the candidate to try to downgrade. He's the former president of the United States, lady. The former president of the United States. He's not just the Donald Trump, the candidate, all right?
If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I sort of screwed that up for you guys. I'm going to run it back a little bit.
Election, there will be a bloodbath. If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. You think you're going to get that? You're going to not hire Americans and you're going to sell the cars to us? No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Now, does anyone not understand that he was talking about what was going on with the auto industry? That the auto industry was going to collapse. It's going to be a bloodbath of the auto industry because they're moving everything to Mexico. China's building in Mexico, and they want to sell the cars back here. Anyone not understand that? Anyone not understand that besides some brain-dead liberal? Not understand what he was talking about, and they keep trying to bring it up, right? All right, let's just move on, man. Let's go to IVF. Here we go.
Understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments.
The Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment. Because we want more babies, to put it very...
Now, this is one of the big things, too, that they want to bring up. I was talking about this Project 2025, right? And I had a show. I did a show. What was it, about a month and a half ago now? No, when they kept talking about Project 2025, I read all 922 pages, and I debunked everything right here on the show. You guys can go back and check this show about a month or two ago now. But about Project 2025, so they want to keep bringing up this Project 2025 rhetoric and stuff, right? So here's the one that she brought up during the debate.
Here tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
Okay, so Project 2025, and I suggest you guys go actually read it, right? It actually has some good things in there. It's a conservative thing, but President Trump had nothing to do with that. He didn't write that. I mean, and it wasn't really Project 2025 either. This was Project 1978. They've been doing this since 1978. Ronald Reagan was the first president to implement any of the policies from the Heritage Foundation. Okay, so they've been doing this, but now what's happening now? Because I think she's losing, and CNN is losing so much money. They're actually starting to fact check Kamala. CNN is actually starting to fact check her.
Did not write Project 2025. The project's big policy document published by the Heritage Foundation think tank lists dozens of people as authors, editors, contributors. Donald Trump is not among them.
And this is the Project 2025, the writer, basically the, who wrote Project 2025, right? And he's going to come out, and this is the founder of Project 2025. So this is what he has to say.
Trump has nothing to do with Project 2025. Sure, a lot of us have worked in the admin and came together, but this started long before he even announced for president.
And Trump basically spoke against it. His agenda is Agenda 47. Trump's agenda is Agenda 47. And it's right there on his website. Okay? It's right there on his website. So if you really want to know what Trump's policies are, why don't you go to Agenda 47? Okay? Go to DonaldTrump.com. It's on his PresidentTrump.com, and you can go see and read his agenda. Okay. Now I want to give you something that Megyn Kelly. You know what? I used to hate Megyn Kelly, right? Because she went at Trump so hard. She was Fox News's, chopper, of Trump in 2016, right? I mean, in 2020, and but she's awoken. You know why she's awake? She's awake because she has admitted that she's vaccine injured as well. Okay, I believe this is what woke her up. But this is Megyn Kelly on the debate.
I'm disgusted. I'm ashamed of those moderators at ABC News. They did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do. The person who runs ABC News is a close personal friend of Kamala Harris, that is responsible for Kamala Harris and her husband meeting. And they did Dana Walden's bidding tonight. It was 3 against 1 on that debate stage this evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, a special program tonight for you reacting to the debate. It was 3 against 1. It's very easy to look like you know what you're doing when both moderators are entirely on your side. Trump did the best he could under the circumstances, but it really was like 3 fighters in the ring pummeling one opponent. And the worst piece of all of this is the obvious tactic by ABC News, which was as follows. Mr. Trump, you said something incredibly controversial and terrible. Let me remind you of what it was. Do you have any regrets or thoughts on how terrible you were? Trump answers. Vice President Harris, how bad is Trump? And then she'd answer. It happened over and over again. That was the format. Mr. Trump, you're a piece of shit. Kamala Harris, isn't he a shit? Thank you. It was incredible. And then anything Trump said, fact check, fact check, fact check. And their fact checks were full of shit.
Yeah, so that was a perfect summary from...
That's my boy Greg. That was from my boy Greg's show, Black Conservative
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons? And whether or not you do...
This is Kamala on gun confiscation. She says, I'm not going to take your guns. Here it is.
How does that idea not go against fundamentally the Second Amendment?
Yeah. Great question. I do believe that we need to do buybacks, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let's be clear about what assault weapons are. They have been designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. They are weapons of war with no place on the streets of a civil society. I've seen assault weapons kill babies and police officers. So, one, I'll tell you, when elected president, if the United States Congress continues to fail to have the courage to do something about this, I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country. But we still have to deal with the over 2 million assault weapons that are currently in the streets of America. And so a buyback program is a good idea.
In her own words, executive order, she's ready to take executive action if Congress don't do something. All right, let's talk about fracking.
My family lives in western Pennsylvania, where fracked gas wells have become a common sight, yet the toxic impacts of fracking on the community are immense, from contaminated groundwater to poisonous emissions. Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yes, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah, so thank you.
So would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, and I've, again, worked on that.
So there you go. She wants to make us energy dependent, where Donald Trump made us energy independent. And we were actually the #1 producer and exporter of oil under Donald Trump. That's why the gas prices were so low, and that's why they're so high under the Biden-Harris administration. And yes, they are giving 50 caliber to the cartels. They're handing out to certain illegals because they know we're going to have a war here. And yeah, we have liquid gold in the ground. Could tell you, we need to drill, baby, drill. I'm not done. You guys think I'm done? I am not done. With the clips yet. I know we're almost running out of time, but there's still a couple more that I have to play just so people understand. And if your pets are getting eaten, and yes, they are eating the ducks. Yes, they are roasting cats. Yes, they are cutting the heads off of geese in Ohio and other places. Let's just remember who brought them to you.
That's why also, starting with our administration, we gave TPS, temporary protected status, to Haitian migrants, 55,000. And then more recently, we extended temporary protected status to over 100,000 Haitian migrants for that very reason, that they need support, they need protection.
So there it is. That's who brought you the Haitians to the country, 100,000 protected status. So, and they put 20,000, I believe up to 20,000 in Springfield, Ohio, and other places in Ohio. But what they're doing, they're strategically putting these people there to hopefully make them the voter block, to turn these red areas. They only do this, they call it under the refugee resettlement program or temporary protected status. If it's temporary protected status, that means their asses need to go home and go back, because I don't think barbecue is eating people anymore. I mean, he may be, but they need to go back and protect their own country and fight for their own country, and kill barbecue, hell, or whatever, and eat his ass, put him on the grill, But make no mistakes, that is the Democrat Party. It was the Harris-Biden administration that brought you over 100,000 Haitians to our country and in your neighborhoods. Right there, And so if they say that Trump is lying, well, they're saying Trump is lying and people are crazy, but Trump has been right about everything. Even though they said, Trump is lying, Trump has been right about everything, and he's right about this too. I have videos from people. I mean, they got the cats on the grill and everything. You got people crying all over the place that their dog's head was decapitated and left in the yard or whatever the case is. So, I mean, this is what it is, man. It's just unbelievable, definitely unbelievable. Let me see. What else I got? Okay, so one of the biggest things, and you figure a person. And I'm probably going to end the show with this. I have more, but I'm going to end the show with this one because this one is classic. This one is classic, and it hits home, right? If there is, and I'm gonna end on this song too, but if a person wants to be the president of the United States, and she's the vice president. She's the vice president of the United States. And if she wants to be freaking in charge of people, in charge of the military, she needs to know what's going on in the world. I believe she's totally fucking oblivious to what's going on in the world. She's totally oblivious to where our troops are that are in danger. that are in danger. She is oblivious, because if she was not, she never would have said this.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century.
What?
But let's understand.
So where the fuck are we right now?
Where the fuck are we?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century.
What?
But let's understand.
So where the fuck are we right now?
She has no clue. She has no clue. This woman cannot be in charge of the military. This woman cannot be in charge of the United States. We will be in World War III if she wins. I don't think she's going to win, but the Democrats are going to do everything possible to have her steal or to steal another election. Hey, but I thank you guys. I appreciate it. I finally got on Getter. I see everybody over on Getter, man. I don't know what was going on with the computer. Getter wouldn't let me in, but I love you guys, man. Thank you. Thank you, Susan, over there in Rumble Land. Thank you, Broadcast Network. Thank you, Katalia. Thank you, Carolyn Balderson. Thank you, everybody that tune in. And thank you to my new home, to my new family over there on the America Happens Network, AHN, America Happens Network. Thank you to Vim Miller for bringing me into the family. I really appreciate it. So I hope you guys like the show. Hope you hey, just give me a thumbs up. If you like the show, give me a thumbs up. If comments, put some comments in there and share the show out. We really appreciate it. So we're gonna go out, man, because I think we're gonna end up, like I said, in another war. So there's no better song to go out than this. This is one of my favorite songs. And so I check you guys out next Sunday, live as usual, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am your host, the Black Mamba, Jerome Bell, on the Radical Republicans live show. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.
I'm on the mission, the powers have called me away. I'm on the time to carry the colors again. My motivation, the no house wanted to defend, to win the honor of coming back home again. No explanation will matter after we begin. I'm not the dark destroyer that's buried within my true vocation, and now my unfortunate friend. You will discover while you're unable to win. I'll have you know that I've become indestructible. Determination and less incorruptible. From the Amazon of terror to the whole annihilation of the unavoidable. Every broken enemy will know that they're opponent cannot be invincible. Take a last look around while you're alive. I'm an indestructible master of war. Another reason, another cause for me to fight. Another fuse uncovered now for me to light. My dedication to one the lost, one to protect. I carry out my orders without a regret. My declaration embedded deep under my skin. A permanent reminder of how it began. No hesitation when I am commanded to strike. You need to know that you're in the fight of your life. You will be shown how I become indestructible. Determination and is incorruptible. From the other side of terror to behold. Annihilation will be unavoidable. Every broken enemy will know that they're opponent that be invincible. Take a last look around while you're alive. I'm an indestructible master of war. Indestructible, determination and is incorruptible. From the other side of terror to behold, annihilation will be unavoidable. Every broken enemy will know that they're opponent that be invincible. Take a last look around while you're alive. I am indestructible. Indestructible, determination that is incorruptible. From the other side of terror to behold, annihilation will be unavoidable. Every broken enemy will know that they're opponent that be invincible. Take a last look around.